Well, I always knew I wanted to farm, and I knew that I wanted to live in a manner where the goats and I would have a symbiotic relationship, and that in order to do that, we needed to have a sustainable arrangement on the farm. And so it wasn't so much that I picked goats as it was that goats picked me. Well, it turns out that a lot of people came to me just because of the number of years that I'd been in the dairy business, wanting to know how to get started with a grade A goat dairy, because they had heard all kind of statements made by other people, and I think it was used as much as a reasoning not to go into the dairy business by saying, well, we didn't have $100,000 to put into a dairy. Well, I can assure you I've never had $100,000 to put into a dairy either. But there's always an alternative to what's being done by someone else in the way that you want to do it. And I always encouraged people to look at as many dairies as possible, take what they could use, and then don't bother with the rest. To get in touch with their inspector first, find out what they had that could be used, and go from there.
He's our #1 milker, I guess. He's going to go through, he's going to strip everybody into this cup and check for any signs of mastitis or unhealthy milk. After he does that, he's going to go to each doe and he's going to put the inflation on them. The inflations are these. After he does that, he'll dip them and he'll let them out. We use a powder dip just because usually when it gets colder, it'll have the tendency to freeze. And then they're out and we see them again at 6 o'clock in the morning.
This state has an advantage for small homestead people because they do allow the sale of raw milk as long as it's at a licensed facility. And that's an advantage here in South Carolina, that people can get the grade A raw goat milk. As in some states, it's not tolerated at all. Well, we've been fortunate in that probably because I get bored if I do the same thing all the time, that I didn't really want to just focus on the goats or just focus on the milk or just focus on the cheese. But when we started out, we were recognized for selling breeding stock, not only to other farms, but we did a lot of exporting to other countries. And it was a cold, yucky winter's night when I got a call from a friend of mine that was in California, and she called and said, "Congratulations." And I said, "For what?" She said, "You just won the world championship with your feta." I said, "No way." My name is Evan J. Evans, and I'm the founder of Split Creek Farm, LLC, in Anderson, South Carolina.
Hey, my name's Tyler Chastain, and I'm the owner and operator of Faithfully Grown Farms. I'm a recent graduate from Pendleton High School, the class of 2014. I picked agriculture/farming as my career. It's what I've loved to do most of my life. Last year we started small. We didn't even have a greenhouse, and we propagated in my former school's greenhouse. Kind of gathered profits from local farmers markets and had a small CSA. Went into the next year, this year, growing season. We're going to grow for Greenwood Farmers Market, Clemson Farmers Market, Anderson Farmers Market. We grew our CSA to 25 plus people. We're in grocery stores such as Swamp Rabbit, Methodical Coffee, downtown Greenville. And what I love about farming is you're in control of everything to a certain extent. Decided to go with the heirloom tomatoes in Faithfully Grown Farms. It offers a more rich taste in your tomato. At Faithfully Grown Farms, we are a diversified system. We have hen production, which produces around 50 dozen eggs a week now. In the springtime, we are planning to be pushing 70 dozen. We have a crop production that is totally diversified, everywhere from spring, summer to fall. Spring being your collards, kale, beets, bok choy. Summer being squash, zucchini, tomatoes, and fall being bok choy, collards, kale, and beets all again. Chastain, Faithfully Grown Farms.
Hello, I'm David Martin Dairy, Pendleton, South Carolina. I'm fourth generation farmer to farm this land. Prior to 1949, my father and his parents farmed cotton and some cereal grains. In 1949, my father began milking cattle, and until a year ago, the cattle were always milked on this farm, and I made the decision to stop milking at that time. I still do grow beef cattle and dairy replacement heifers and pigs and some chickens and turkeys. We're practicing sustainable agriculture. We've been using manure and residue from hay we feed and silage to create compost for sale to gardeners, homeowners, as well as using it here on farm for production of our crops, and hope that becomes a large part of our farming operation in the future. Since we've stopped milking cattle here, we've diversified into row crops, soybeans, milo, and corn, and we've expanded beef herd, selling feeder calves and dairy replacement heifers. We've also gotten into pig production. Martin Dairy, Pendleton, South Carolina.
My name's Greg Hart, owner and operator of Big H Cattle Company, Pendleton, South Carolina. I was born on a farm in Townville, South Carolina, my grandfather's farm. He died a couple of years before I was born, and the farm was sold off, and over the years we moved to Pendleton, and then I started dating my wife, which was a farm that was pretty much being leased out. So before me and her got married, and then after we got married, we kind of took the farm back in and turned it from row cropping to cattle operation. Started out with 6 head that the owner financed through a friend of my daddy's, and right now we're over 90 head, cows and calves right now. We lease and own a little over 300 acres between here and Five Forks, which is all in Pendleton, South Carolina. Right now, our number one goal is trying to fence everything in. As you come along, everybody sees fencing and think how cheap it is, but it's a lot of work, costs a lot of money, and to take land that has growed up and had been plowed for years and try to turn it into something that cattle can graze. And as you can see, we worked on some today, building a new corral. This fence, this pasture over here is only about 5 years old. We have cattle on both sides of the highway here at the farm, and hopefully one day retire as a cow-calf operator. Thank you. Greg Hart, owner and operator of Big H Cattle Company, Pendleton, South Carolina.
We hope you enjoyed our video highlighting local producers and farmers in our community.
We would like to personally thank them and all South Carolina farmers for producing safe, healthy, local, and of course delicious products.
From the Pendleton FFA chapter,
Thank you and happy growing.